Hey, vinyl community, it's Mazzy. Mazzy's in his whispering voice right now. Long story, if you don't know that, don't ask. Elliot Cruz. Baby, let me take you on a Elliot Cruz. Not spelled like Tom Cruise or even Penelope Cruz. It's C-R-E-W-S. Formerly a history teacher, I understand, out of North Carolina. I won't do the accent, my North Carolina, my expert, perfect dialect, Southern North Carolina accent for this contest. But Elliot is fairly new on the vinyl community last couple of months, I'd say, 2-3 months. And great channel of a lot of country, western, roots music, harmony series is kind of great, like brother harmonies like the Louvin Brothers, things like Doc and Merle Watson, Scruggs, just in the sort of acoustic-based country. I mean, stuff I love. You've seen some of my videos. I go in that direction amongst many other directions, you know, artists like Ry Cooder, Emmylou Harris, that type of thing too. Anyway, really good-hearted guy, has a dog that for some reason always goes down the stairs, opens the door, goes down the stairs. Actually, that's his lead-in thing. But I love watching him, so there'll be a link down here. He's having, now I didn't write it down, it's either 134 or 136th subscriber contest. Now, I was sort of puzzled when I heard this because I know he has some like friggin' excuse that when he hit 100 it was over the holidays and everyone was busy, but I'm just thinking maybe that's how they do it in the South. They celebrate this odd kind of weird offbeat number, like, you know, you get married and you're celebrating your 14th and a half wedding anniversary instead of like the 15th or 20th or 25th. Anyway, I'm digressing there, but he's got 4 questions here and I'm gonna answer them and showcase the music the best I can. The first one, gotta look where I put everything here. It's like being a DJ, two turntables and 1 microphone. The first one, local artists. Spotlight a couple albums from local artists. No major labels, but those self-released small indie labels. Tell a story, discuss them. So I happen to be in Seattle now, and I really, you know, as much as I know the local scene up here, and obviously there are bands like Nirvana that did indie stuff way before Sub Pop and the other labels, and same with, I'm not going there, I'm going to my hometown, San Francisco, because that's where I know it. And you know, the thing about as growing up, all these new artists, all of a sudden in the late 60s, starting with the Jefferson Airplane, just got signed right away to the big shots. In those days, they were not self-produced. I was gonna do some punk stuff, because I do have some Dead Kennedy singles, and there's punk singles, because I was around, and that was a time where a lot of bands put out self-produced albums. But I'm gonna do an album by a band, kind of an avant-garde band out of San Francisco, and they actually were on the peninsula of San Francisco for all then, I think the South of Market area. One of the first bands to self-produce films, short films, bizarre stuff. They were a band that was really anonymous their entire career, and that is The Residents. And of course, I totally forgot to show this in the video where you had to show a parody album in the 2020 themed tag this year, because I think this would be great. I think there was a cease and desist order after this. But they only printed 1,000 copies of this, and this is extremely rare. We sold this in the record store. I think we had it on a consignment. It's unplaced, do not open before purchase. $3.99 was the price it sold for here. And that sticker's still on it. It is opened. I have played it. It's pretty out there. Residents, if you don't know them, there was a sort of an artist collective with the Residents, Snakefinger, Tuxedo Moon, of these artists. And it was on Ralph Records. Ralph Records was their indie kind of label that this collective of artists worked with, some crossover with the artist. The Residents were never known. Nobody knew who they were because they were always in disguise. But this is great. Look at this picture. There's Paul McCrawfish, John Crawfish, George Crawfish, and Ringo Starfish. I mean, great sense of humor. I saw them a good amount of times in the Bay Area. Probably up to the last time was about 20 years ago. They went through a period, in fact, let me just show you this, cease and desist, right? On that great Robert Freeman Meet the Beatles cover. I love it. I was so amused I had to have it. And I didn't originally buy it for the music initially. The music is out there. I bought it obviously because of my Beatle collection, but this is the label, beautiful label too. This would have been a good one also for showing a really cool label. Ralph Records, 33 1/3, Meet the Residents. I love that. Now, I think most of their stuff was on. I don't remember if they ever got picked up. I don't have a lot of their records anymore. I had some of them. This actually is a recent collection that Cherry Records put out in the UK, and I'm showing it just to show this is not on Ralph Records. It's not indie, although one could argue that Cherry Records is indie. They do a lot of UK comps and reissues of things, of out there music and prog music and British and German music. This is Eskimo Deconstructed. In 1979, the Residents issued Eskimo, their highly personal account of the music and tradition of the polar Eskimo. The record was instantly hailed as a masterpiece everywhere that mattered. If you believe that, came with a download of just like snow sounds. But these were the famous eyeballs they wore when they performed a good many of the years. And at one point, there was a reward because someone stole one of the eyeballs. So one of the members wore this mask. And the last 2 years, if you look on YouTube, you can find they have, for $100,000, a really special box set. There's only 10 of them. Basically, it's their entire collection of LPs, CDs, an eyeball, a replica of the eyeball in a full-size refrigerator. There's films and all kinds of things, and you can buy them for $100,000. I don't know if they're sold out. They only had 10 of them, so they didn't need to sell a lot. And I know the Museum of Modern Art, I think in New York, bought one. So you should search that in video. It's hysterical, the whole pitch they do for that. So The Residents, that's mine. Number 2, Not My Usual. Spotlight a couple albums that are outside your wheelhouse. This is really hard for me, and this is the one I struggled with the most because I don't like everything, but I like every genre. I like something in every genre. I'm always willing to take a chance on music, and if you've seen my videos, you see I do, I can listen to punk, and I don't listen to a lot of heavy metal, but I have some heavy metal, and I have a lot of minimal industrial music, like say Throbbing Gristle, country music, roots music, Americana, world music, Indian music. I love sitar music. I love world music of most countries. Anyway, I like opera. I don't have a lot of opera. I like classical music, and I like esoteric stuff. So, and I like pure pop. But I decided, first what I'm playing in the background now, this isn't so out there really, because this is an amazing jazz album, vocalist, Doris Day and Harry James, Man with a Horn, and this is a mono version. I would say if you ever see this, pick it up. This one's sort of a beat copy, but the record sounds incredible. It's a 6i Columbia, Doris Day. Great vocalist. This is obviously way before we saw her in, I was gonna say not Beach Blanket Babble, not the movies with Rock Hudson, like Pillow Talk and all those kind of, I guess she wasn't getting much from Rock Hudson, but that's a whole other story. But what is an incredible record, and it surprised me, my buddy kind of turned me on to it, and again, I did buy, this is a 2i Columbia, but it's this, Doris Day's Greatest Hits. Fabulous vocal record. Everybody Loves a Lover, It's Magic, Guy is a Guy. A guy is a guy. I guess he wasn't talking about Rock Hudson at the time. That's bad taste. I do it in all the kindness of my heart, come on. Bewitched, Bewildered, great song. Whatever Will Be, Que Sera Sera, her most famous song, and she sang it in the Alfred Hitchcock film with Jimmy Stewart, The Man Who Knew Too Much. Que Sera Sera, and she did for a while date, she dated? Sly Stone, not Rambo, but Sly and the Family Stone. they had a thing in the 70s for a while. It was cool. And actually he covered Que Sera Sera on, is it Fresh? I can't remember, one of his albums. So anyway, this is my out of my wheelhouse. This is what I'm doing. It was a hard one for me because I like so much, but I thought this was a good one to showcase that maybe you wouldn't expect Mazzy to showcase Doris Day. Okay, best dressed. This was an easy one. I picked 3 artists. How can I not? Frank Sinatra. The coolest dresser, the coolest cat. Those hats he wore, I love those hats. All those great photographs of him at the big microphone at Capitol Records studio singing. I mean, just a suit, you know. He wasn't like a big dress-up guy most of the time, but just that great suit. But look at that. Look at the band on that hat. Gorgeous. I could have pulled out, you know, 10 Sinatra albums and showed them. Of course, then he dresses down there, but and that's for him dressing down, I guess, playing golf. But Frank Sinatra. And of course, the 2 things I thought about when I first looked at this question, and that was Cab Calloway. His dancing in that tuxedo, Heidi Heidi Ho, just the Ghost video. What's the other song? The big song. It was Des St. Louis Blues, but I'm blanking out. And that big song that, you know, everyone knows about. But anyway, look at that, Cab Calloway. He's dressed to the T's to go to dinner. Dinner wear. W-E-A-R. And then of course, this is, again, Cab Calloway. Minnie the Moocher, that's the song I'm thinking about. One of the great records ever. It's not on these 2. I don't think I have it on vinyl, I have it on CD. I don't think Minnie the Moocher, oh, Minnie the Moocher is on this one. This is from 33 to 34 with his Cotton Club Orchestra. And it says right on the friggin' cover, Mazzy, if I paid attention, Smokey Joe and Company, Minnie the Moocher, Cab Calloway. Love it, dressed to the T. And the other one I thought of right away, it's not on the cover. Well, first of all, I think that's dressed to the T, don't you think? I mean, what does dressed to the T mean? If you can't go out to dinner and have cocktails wearing your walrus outfit, you can't go anywhere. Of course, the Beatles in full white tux and tails for the great scene Your Mother Should Know in Magical Mystery Tour. Had to throw a Beatle thing in there. Paul must be dead because he's wearing the black carnation. And the last question, autographs. Spotlight a few albums you have that are autographed. If you can, show a purposeful, an accidental, and a personalized autograph and tell a story about each. I expand on this because, you know, I like to cheat, but it's because of the autographs I have. They're not all records. There's records and books here and a couple of other ephemera. Should I do it records first? I'll do the records. The 2 records. I have a bunch of other ones, and some CDs, but I'm just gonna pull 2 off the top that I got. One that I actually got, and that's Ry Cooder's record, Pull Up Some Dust and Sit Down, Ry Cooder. And he did a small concert, and I showcased this before, for Labor Fest in San Francisco in 2012. It was at a Union Hall near the Giants baseball stadium. And it was just maybe a handful of 50 people, 60 people there in folding chairs. It was him and his son Joaquin and a bass player. And I think there's a drummer, just acoustic drummer, not quite sure. Don't remember now. But Ry Cooder signed it, and Joaquin Cooder signed it. I have a picture of me with him. I'm not going to post it here, but very political album. He did also election, just before that he did election special, or after that, I guess, I can't remember which order, which I may showcase coming up this year because we know what's going on this year. And then this box set. Box set, avant-garde, artsy, artwork by Yoko Ono. And this is a cool design Yoko Ono music with Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth. Number 152 out of 600. Comes in this cool box set and a big poster. And it's signed by Thurston Moore, Kim, and Yoko Ono. Moving on to something else. Drumhead to Norman. It's Pete Best. Pete Best, one of the original drummers of the Beatles, the one who was with them literally up to the very just before Ringo popped in. They had also Tommy Moore, and so they've had several artists that a lot of people don't know about, but everyone knows about Pete Best, who follows the Beatles, and met him a couple times. Oh, I actually do have a record. I just forgot. I do have a record, Best of the Beatles, the thing he put out with this, and I do have that signed by Pete Best as well. But this happened to be handy, and I thought it was kind of cool. Miniature signed. This is the things they get for drummers to sign autographs on. I don't think these aren't actual usable drum heads, are they? Come on, drummer. I don't remember. Then, All You Need Is Ears. The first autobiography. There were several books he put out. George Martin, obviously. You probably mostly know him being the producer of the Beatles, and he was an A&R man at Parlophone Records at EMI. And this was his first book in 1980, and I met him at a TV interview show he did in San Francisco, and I got it signed. And I'll read it first. Best wishes, Norman, from George Martin, January 1980. So this is exactly 40 years old now when I met him. So I just chatted with him maybe for a minute and a half. That's it. But he was such a gentleman, looked like the Prince of Wales. This is the pen that he used. I can't remember if I gave him this pen or he pulled it out. Security Pacific Bank, I think it was mine. Even though I don't know where I got it. Can you read that? Can you read that signature? You recognize that signature? 1975. I went away for the weekend with my girlfriend. Her parents had a beach house down near Santa Cruz, California. Of course, I fucking went away for the weekend. My buddies David, who I co-authored the Beatles England book with, and my friend Larry, who was in the band that you've heard if you've watched these videos before, that I was with. He was a drummer in my band, and that drum set in my music room was his drum set. David and Larry went down to KSAN Radio, KSAN, which at the time was at 211 Sutter Street in San Francisco on a weekend, on a Saturday, and waited there and waited there and waited there, because they, on the Tom Donahue show, who was Big Daddy, Tom Donahue, considered the father of FM underground radio, started KMPX and then moved over to KSAN. An amazing figure in stature and in size, and you should listen to tapes of his shows. They're just amazing. In fact, you can probably hear the interview he did with this person. If you haven't guessed it now, this is John Lennon's autograph. John Lennon was he wasn't with Yoko. I don't think he was with May Pang. My mistake, because this was Walls and Bridges tours, I recall. I'm trying to think. It must have been, yeah, because then he kind of, after that and the rock and roll album went into retirement for 5 years. Yeah, I just realized it had been May Pang. You're right. I'm right. I made a mistake. Okay, sue me. His autograph, Richard Avedon photograph. September 21st, 1974, Larry and David stood out, and John and May Pang walked up. They chatted for a moment, and both David and Larry got his autograph. This is Larry's copy. My friend Larry, my buddy, who I known since I was 11 years old, 12 years old, 12 years old, I believe, 11 or 12. We were in bands together as kids. We grew up together. I mean, closest I had to a real brother at the time, one of my closest friends for many years, my partner in crime. You think I'm snarky, he was way beyond me. And 6 years ago, he passed away. Actually, a little over that, just before, it would be almost 7 years coming up. And in his will, he left me his John Lennon autograph. Doesn't that make you cry? Boy, when I saw that he gave me this, left me this, I was really touched. I even thought to give me this. We used to joke for years that I had, I don't even have that fucking girlfriend anymore. That was a cat. Her name was Catherine. So now I've told you about the Beatle connections with Judy and Catherine. There must be a history with all my girlfriends over the years. There weren't a lot, like, of really close girlfriends, but I digress again. So anyway, John Lennon. Is that all the autographs? That seems to be it. Boy, this could go on forever. I do have autographed books, several by Ringo Starr, signed by Ringo, not that I got personally. They're Genesis publication books. I have three books autographed, Genesis books by George Harrison, I Me Mine, and 2 books of his lyrics. They're limited editions of like 2,000 each that he signed. I still have those. Someday I'm gonna sneeze. You know that moment where you just think you're gonna sneeze. I have Paul McCartney, a poetry book, Blackbird, signed by Paul. I think I have another book or another project that Paul signed. I'm blanking out right now, which I usually do since I just throw this stuff out. And I have something else that someday I'll show because it might not be totally legit, although I did get it in 1980 in Liverpool from someone close to the Beatles at one point. Anyway, thank you for watching. And Elliot, I love watching. You're almost like family now. You're part of my North Carolina family. So if I ever make it out there, maybe we can meet up. But good luck with 136 and beyond. Maybe at some point you'll hit like a real number to really celebrate. This kind of like wonky number is kind of silly, really. But I'm a city boy, so I don't know. And just be thankful I didn't do this entry with a North Carolina accent. Take care, VC. Mazzy loves you.